What's good YouTube? Welcome to my channel, Lars in Conditioning. Today we will talk about why you need to change your program and how often you need to do so. The very first reason as to why you need to change your program is simply because it makes it more sustainable for you to train and it makes it more interesting. So think about it like this: if you change your program every so often, you can keep things more fresh, which makes it more interesting. So that means you get excited to go to the gym rather than dread or just not really want to go because you don't find it that interesting in the first place to go. So keeping things fresh is a very important thing to be able to train for a very long time. When you can train for long periods of time, this is also where you actually get the gains that you actually want, because gains are slow. They don't happen overnight. They take a lot of time and effort. So if you can keep training for years to come, this is where you will actually overshadow everybody else who goes to the gym if that's something you actually want to do. Another reason, which also has to do with sustainability in terms of your training, is simply because the imbalances that you build over time. If you have exactly the same program for a very long time, that means everything else is the same, everything gets the same stimulus over time. That means you will have body parts or imbalances in general that will make it difficult to progress, and this is one of the ways that you actually hit a plateau. So when people have been training for multiple years and they talk about how they can't get any progress, it's simply because they have neglected multiple things in the program or changing the programs altogether, so you don't actually get the stimulus that you actually want from the training. An example of this could be someone who wants to do an overhead press with a barbell and they are feeling stuck. They can't really progress anywhere at all, but they haven't even used a dumbbell or used a different implementation altogether. So they don't know where they have like a weak link in the pressing. This is how changing your program can actually help, because when you change your program and change your style a little bit, this can actually help show where you have a weak link, which is what you need to work on, so you can actually get progress for the long haul. So this is yet another reason to do it. A third and also very important reason to change your program. When you change it, it actually also shows where you have your strengths and weaknesses, so it actually shows if you need to do some sort of prehab. Prehab is something referred to as if you have an issue that is potential to become a problem, so we want to build towards it not being a problem. Whereas rehab, when you have an injury, then you need to rebuild to get back to where you were. So you prefer the prehab, because being in rehab, that can take months, maybe even a year or longer, before you get to a point where you can train normal again. So we would prefer that you do prehab basically year round, because that keeps you injury free. So that makes it a lot easier to get gains all the way through. So, in your program, what shouldn't you change? There are two things that we don't want to change. The first is if you're doing something that is very sport specific. If you're training to be a powerlifter or strongman, we obviously don't want to take out those movements altogether. What we could do is use different implementations for a period of time, or change up the rep schemes or amount of sets. There are multiple things that you actually could change to keep making progress. However, one of the most important things that you would not want to change if you're actually born with something, like I am. I'm born with a dislocated shoulder, which means I need to do prehab for my shoulders at all times. I cannot stop it. If I do, I will simply injure myself. So prehab is something that you should preferably not want to stop at any point, even if you don't feel like what might be a problem is a problem or stops being a problem. You still need to do it because it could become a problem later. So now the question is, how often should you change your program? And this can vary quite a bit. In terms of your physical capabilities, there is no benefit to actually changing your programs every 4 to 8 weeks, at least not big changes. Small changes could be beneficial, but small changes not too much. However, a big benefit to it is if you are the type of person that needs changes quite often in order to keep you basically engaged, then changing your program that often could actually make you stay in the gym for the long haul, which is often an overlooked aspect of actually training altogether. For some people, changing your program often enough can actually be the reason why they stay in the gym for years versus just a few months. A lot of people actually don't know how to stick to a structured program for 6, 8, 9 months. Most people actually need some sort of change somewhat often because they quickly get bored and they need some sort of new engagement. So for these type of people, we prefer that we change their program a little bit more often, because like I said before, we'll keep them engaged and we'll keep them training for long periods of time. A change that you can make to your program that is very easy and quick to do. So if you have a leg day and you start with your quads and then hamstrings and then whatever you finish with, you actually just take your program and flip it upside down. So if you usually end with calves, then you start with calves to basically take your entire program in the opposite order. This is actually a way that you can change your program and it stimulates all your muscles actually get all together. It's still the same exercises, just in reverse order. So this is really helpful to keep making progress for the long haul. So how often do you need to change your training style? Well, this depends. If you are purely a bodybuilding focused trainer, then you don't need to change your program all that often. What would be the biggest benefit for you would to change the order of your exercises and then actually change the variations as well. Changing variations would be beneficial for everybody because you will develop imbalance if you just keep doing exactly the same movement over and over. However, for people who do very heavy lifting, you cannot do heavy lifting for a very long time without running into issues. So you do need times where you are running a more high volume approach and then let your tendons actually recover and then you can go back to training heavy. Typically between 4 to 12 weeks. Again, 4 weeks will be towards the people that need to change more often, and some people, in terms of how strong their joints are, they actually need to change it more often because if you're training heavy, it just wears and tears on their joints quicker than some other people. A big benefit of being able to change your program and just not stick to one thing is a lot of the time people within the fitness industry tend to get hyper focused on just one thing. So maybe either just bodybuilding or powerlifting or something else entirely. If you actually change your program from time to time, so you actually train different aspects and train your fitness overall and not just in a little block or a little segment, you actually train your full picture in terms of fitness. And this is something that's a really big benefit because this way you can train multiple aspects throughout the year. And as long as you just keep practicing the same things over and over and over, your body will be able to keep doing it for a very long time. Thank you for watching. Lars and Conditioning signing out. I hope you have an awesome day.